Guys, look at this. Here's old school RuneScape, one click of a button, here's old school RuneScape in HD. You animals know, I've been following, milking for content, whatever you want to call it, the RuneScape HD client race for the last 6 months. Back then, there was 3 of them in the works, HDOS, RuneLite HD, and Toddy's OS Remastered. Well, today, that race comes to an end. RuneLite HD, a plugin made for RuneLite by a guy called 117, is officially out there as a public beta. You can use it right now, and there's a lot I want to say about it, but first, how the heck do you get the thing? Well, first you need the RuneLite client. I know most of you have it, but if you don't, it's runelight.net. Once you've got it, go to the configuration panel. Very bottom, there's a thing called Plugin Hub. Click on that, and then you can search for 117. 117 HD will pop right up. Install it, enable it, you're good to go. There's a couple settings you can play around with here. I've basically maxed everything out for the video, but right out of the box, you definitely have to enable anti-aliasing and shadows. It makes it look like 10 times better. On top of that, there's a separate plugin called animation smoothing that's installed with RuneLite by default. I always found animation smoothing looked kind of weird with normal graphics, but combined with this plugin, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I would recommend turning that one on as well. On top of that, brightness is a beautiful option. If you put it to darkest, it makes the game look like nighttime, and if you put it to brightest, it looks like a bright summer day. In the plugin hub, there's also a weather plugin. Enable that, combined with all this other stuff, and now it looks like it's raining, but let me turn that off for now. That's just another something you can do. Speaking of something you can do, a like on the video will help show this to more people, which maybe will get more people into the game because of the good graphics, And by the way, KBD pre-orders will be out the door around the 20th. Thank you. So anyways, now that we've got it, let's take a little walk around and talk about it. First off, I'm so happy to see that this was actually released, and also the hype around it, which is actually why it was released. I mean, the last few days it's been absolutely blowing up on Reddit, and this morning before the release, people were again piling into Falador. World 2 was full, non-stop. The RuneLite Discord was going absolutely wild, asking for the release time, and of course, this is partly due to the Strife Stand effect. Jagex tried to do the big dirty and ban this plugin a day before it was set to be released. That still leaves some implications for other HD clients. We'll talk about that. But at least for RuneLite HD, it has now been given a sweetheart deal because the players came together in a way that I have not seen since Old School was released. We're talking a classic multi-day long Falador riot, players canceling their membership in droves, players saying that they would have come back to the game after having been on a very long hiatus if Jagex had to just let this go through. The most upvoted post on the 2007scape subreddit ever is the post where 117 announces that Jagex said that they have to shut down. That's kind of what sparked this whole thing, but Jagex heard the community's desire for this, they reverted their decision, and here we have it today. It's been officially released. You can use it right now for free. Now, there's a caveat to this announcement. As of right now, Jagex said it's allowed as a bridge until they finish their own HD update. When that time comes, they're going to be discussing what happens to RuneLite HD. That's all we really know from the different news posts right now, but when that time comes, we'll see what happens to it. Maybe we'll have to get our pitchforks out again, but knowing Jagex, this is literally going to be a couple years down the road before they finish their own HD update. By the way, check out the difference when you turn on and off the plugin near this lava. I mean, look at the glow effect on these skeletons. That is absolutely gorgeous. So if you don't know, this was all made by a guy called 117. He built it on top of the GPU plugin that already exists in RuneLite. Granted, he did a lot of work to build this on top of that, and that's part of its magic. It doesn't replace any of the assets in game. It just adds all these atmospheric effects, things like lighting, fog, depth, color. I mean, check out Draenor. All these different effects make a dark place like this really pop, and that's what I live for. But on top of all that lighting stuff, look at the textures. Those have been redone as well. I mean, if you turn it on and off and look at the trees or the ground, you can see the difference that makes. He spent 2,000 hours on this. 6 months ago, when I did my first HD video, there was no ETA as to when this would be finished, but now it's in beta, and a lot of that time he spent manually going through all the areas of the game, making sure all these different lighting effects and textures were properly assigned to things. And we get to use all of this for free, so I think now is an appropriate time to not only shout out 117's Patreon, but also to shout out RuneLite's Patreon, because these are two big projects that offer a ton of value that are just out there in the public for free. So if you want to support that kind of thing, there you go. Now, on the topic of ongoing support, this HD plugin is actually still in beta, so there's a couple things you have to be mindful of. 117 put out a big news post to manage expectations, but also as a warning that there actually might still be some crashes. So let's check out what he had to say. Number 1, crashes. Don't do anything dangerous in game, especially on your hardcore Iron Man. Secondly, I don't think he was expecting the level of popularity that his plugin has received, and so he states that it's not where he wants it to be aesthetically yet. It's not final, it's not a polished product, and it won't be for some time. He's still got a lot of development to do to get it to the perfection level that he desires it to be at. He said, quote, "This release is intended to serve as the foundation. Your constructive feedback will help shape this project going forward." So it's nice that he wants the community's involvement with his plugin, but it looks damn good now, so I also think this is a little bit about him being scared shitless of disappointing so many people. He wrote this yesterday night before the plugin was public, but now that we've got our hands on it, man does it look good. He has nothing to be worried about. And then finally, as you encounter bugs or you see something that maybe you want improved, this is not the responsibility of either Jagex or RuneLite. He has his own separate Discord server where you can report that kind of thing. I'll leave all the links to that in the description. On top of that, this might be exciting for some of you. This was a closed source project throughout its whole development, but now that it's out there for everybody, the source code is also publicly available. So if you want to tinker with it, you now can. But on top of that, if you just want to take a scroll through it, you can really get an appreciation of what went into this. There's a lot of really weird esoteric stuff in there that I don't understand, but also remember earlier I talked about those manual labor intensive assignments. Like here in the code you can see every individual POH portal he had to go in and like set up the lighting for. That's a lot of work, and it just like goes on and on for lines and lines and lines. That's why it took so long. That's why it took 2,000 hours on top of all that really hard graphics code. So there's one other thing I want to talk about, and that's the other HD clients, namely HDOS, which was released 3 months ago, and Toddy's OS Remaster, which has yet to go public. You know, amidst all of this drama, these clients have been left in limbo as to what's going to happen with them. You know, on the 6th of September, Jagex sent out the email to all HD clients saying that they would have to shut down. Of course, RuneLite HD heard back, and now they're allowed to go public with it, but the other clients never received that same update. In fact, they haven't heard anything back, and so as it stands right now, they're going to have to close their projects on the 20th. What they're currently banking on is in the news post about third-party HD clients, Jagex said that they would be updating the third-party guidelines on them within a week, and so they're hoping those guidelines will allow them to still exist. But as it is right now, it's definitely looking like they are going to have to shut down, and that RuneLite HD is the only one that's going to get a sweetheart deal like this. That's a true shame, because I know the guys over at HDOS put so much work into restoring the game as it was in 2008, and it's just sad to see that all go to waste. I did a whole video on their project if you're curious, link is in the description with everything else. So it's good news, but also a little bit of possibly bad news. We'll see how that develops. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support me and my channel, we're making RuneScape figures. KBD is the next one we're going to have out the door later on this month. Link to our store is in the description. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.